Welcome to Pleasure Doing Business with You, a podcast showcasing young Black entrepreneurs who have paved their own ways to success. I'm your host, Megan Sales, business writer at Afro News and Report for America Corps member. Today we are talking to Julie Green, who is celebrating the grand opening of her mental health and wellness center this weekend in Owings Mills, Maryland. What makes Transformative Healing and Wellness, LLC, unique is that it will not require people to have clinical diagnoses in order to use its services, which include a gamut of therapies and access to meditation and splatter paint rooms. Hello, Julie. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. How are you?
I'm wonderful. And thank you for having me.
Of course. So before we get into everything that you're doing with Transformative Healing and Wellness, can you just give listeners a little introduction about yourself? Tell us who you are.
Sure. First, let me say again, thank you for having me here for your listening audience. My name's Julie Green, and I am a psychotherapist here in the state of Maryland. I am originally from Maryland, in the Baltimore County area.
Gotcha. So you're a Marylander. And so before we get into talking about like your journey with entrepreneurship and things like that, I want you to first just reference, you have a grand opening approaching, and I want you to tell listeners about that and what you're launching.
Yes, I am so excited. I am launching a one of a kind of very innovative, unique mental health and wellness center. And our motto here is matters of the mind, embracing mental wellness and while healing mental illness. And what makes it so unique is that I'm not just focusing on the mental illness and people being diagnosed with a DSM code, but rather for this is for everyone. This is for that person that just needs that moment, or that person that, as I like to call it, that in between space. Anything that can affect our minds, our feelings, and our thoughts. And that's to me what makes this so unique. Excuse me.
Definitely. It's unfortunate that there are many, therapists or places out there that maybe they only let people come in if they're diagnosed with a specific mental illness rather than, especially with the pandemic. I think a lot of us have seen, that we have different mental struggles and things like that. It's kind of brought them to light and called attention to them.
Absolutely. And, a lot of people won't seek treatment because they have to be diagnosed. And we do know sometimes diagnosis can follow us in our careers and things of that nature. So, absolutely. But we all have those issues from time to time. And so it's just providing a safe space for everyone.
Absolutely. So how are you feeling about the opening? Are you nervous? Are you excited? What are you feeling?
To be honest, I'm a little nervous because, as with anything, you have a million thoughts going through your mind, screaming all around your head. 1 minute it's like, I'm so excited. And then the next minute it's like, what are you doing? This is a big jump. But I am really, really excited to be bringing this new innovative idea to the community and to the people at large. Like, I don't look at it like I'm opening a new business. I look at it like I'm doing something for the people, and it's just a new opportunity to help us heal, especially after going through the pandemic.
Absolutely. And can you tell listeners where the center will be located?
Absolutely. I am in Baltimore County. I'm in the Owings Mills area, right off the bus line.
Okay.
But it's actually 9505 Reisterstown Road. And it's right like between Pikesville and Owings Mills, servicing the entire Baltimore County, state of Maryland.
That's awesome. And I wish you luck on your grand opening. And I think that nerves are a good thing. I think nerves mean that someone cares about something. So you've put in, your time and your attention and things, and a little bit of nerves are always good, I think. So I think it's going to go amazingly. But I do want to
Well, thank
know,
you.
of course, I do want to know when you kind of first got into the mental health and wellness space.
All right. So the answer to that question could be a whole nother interview all within itself, right?
Wow.
But I'm going to give you like a shorter version of it.
Okay.
So I've been licensed and I've been in the industry for about 18 years. I graduated from University of Maryland with my master's in management and community organization and employee assistance,
Okay.
social work. Okay. But when I graduated, I was already working in corporate America, and I wasn't quite ready to leave corporate America because I thought I was going to hit that glass ceiling. And
Yeah.
as you can see, I didn't hit the glass ceiling. So um, about, I think in 2018, I opted to leave corporate America and thrust myself full time into the industry. I
Hmm.
did it part time. I even tussled with it and put my license in inactive status at one point, going
Wow.
back and forwards. So that's kind of how it started. But once I got into it full time, I hadn't quite found my niche yet.
Hmm.
And so, I was like, I want to do this. I love this, but I hadn't found my niche yet, And
Yeah.
so, but I stayed into the field until I could just kind of get my passion.
Hmm.
I started like studying positive psychology because I thought, you know, what people are doing in the mental health industry is not pushing people forwards. We keep talking about what happened, how so
Yeah.
I started it in positive psychology, and that's when I realized what my niche was, and pushed me towards wanting to do something different other than
Hmm.
just talking, but wanting to do something different. And earlier this year, I had a surgery, knee surgery, and I'm relatively healthy.
Hmm.
And so I thought I would bounce back from it,
Yeah.
really bounce back fast. And I didn't.
Mhm.
And I started looking for what more natural, more holistic things to kind of help me heal. And that's what kind of brought all of this into existence.
Gotcha. Wow, that's really interesting. When you were in corporate America, do you think that I don't know. I guess like I think of corporate America as like people being, stressed out and anxious and
Absolutely,
overworked.
absolutely. But it can have some fun. It has, when being in the mental health industry, I've also worked for private sectors,
Mm,
nonprofit organizations. So I know they both have their ups and downs.
yeah.
I've just always been that ambitious girl. So even with
Mm,
having a degree in social work, being a clinically, you can use it in EAP, you can use it in training. So for
mhm.
me, it was like, okay, I'm in corporate, I can use this a different way,
Yeah.
but and you
Yeah.
can, but I think it's each industry has its own issues and stressors.
Yeah, definitely. That's very true. What do you enjoy about this work? I'm sure it can be kind of tough sometimes, especially, hearing people's stories and things, but what drew you to this work? What do you enjoy about it?
I enjoy helping people. To be honest with you, when you say what drew me to this work, it's not even a question of what drew me to this work.
Mhm.
It is my calling.
Mhm.
I had no choice. I am fortunately very blessed with many talents and gifts.
Mhm.
And I love a lot of them. And people say, "What are you doing?" I can rattle off. I'm a licensed this. I do this. I do that. I do
Yeah.
that. But this industry, helping people, definitely is my calling. True story. I love engineering. I love architect ever since I was a
Mhm.
kid. Even to today, I go around and watch buildings being built. So when I went to college, of course, I went to college for engineering, right? This is
Mhm.
what I wanted to do. It's what I wanted to see. but I graduated with my undergraduate degree in psychology. I
Yeah.
started in engineering, but I graduated with psychology. And then I went for my master's, and I went for an MPA. And when I tell you, I was at University of Baltimore, I loved it. The
Mm-hmm.
program was awesome. My instructors, my facilitators, my professors, they were wonderful. But life situations, I had to take a break. And
Yeah.
when I took a break, guess what? I didn't go back to public administration. I went into social work. That's how I ended up
Wow.
with my social work degree. And fortunately, was able to take some of my. So when I say it's my calling, you can't run from your calling.
Yeah.
It's in me to help people, and not stay stuck, but to try to find the good and the positive in
Mm-hmm.
everything. And I know that traumatic things can happen and people say, how can you find good in them? But when
Mm-hmm.
you really sit down and think about it, you can either harp on the trauma, or
Mm-hmm.
you can find something good in it to help you move forward.
Absolutely. I really like that like advice and that approach. And when we talk about kind of people being afraid to access treatment or go to treatment, I think that some of that has to do with some of the stigmas and the misconceptions that exist about mental health and therapy and just treatment in
Absolutely.
general. Can you talk about some of the ones that you think are the most harmful or the most, I guess, like talked about?
Wow, that's kind of a loaded question, right? Talking about those stigmas.
Yeah.
Well, one is people don't quite understand mental health. They use mental health and mental illness interchangeably, and they're separate entities.
Hmm.
And that's where a lot of the stigmas come in when we talk about that. Just recently, I encountered a gentleman, and he wanted to know what I did. And, I told him I'm in the mental health industry. And the first thing he went to is, well, what makes people crazy? Well, what
Mm,
makes people have mental health? Why do
mm,
people have mental health? And so I like to try to break it down to people that we look at it the same way as we look at our bodies.
yeah.
Our physical health. It's no different. And you said what's the stigma? It's because we're not educated.
Hmm.
And we go back to the old history of it, and we know that being diagnosed sometimes can follow you, and people look at that as being negative.
Yeah.
And the same as their physical illnesses that can often follow you. Think back to COVID. When someone first said they had COVID, what did we do? We all scared, we ran away from
Yeah.
them. There was a stigma associated to COVID. And then you, even 2 weeks later, you still wanted to know, should I be around them? Should
Hmm.
I be around? And so that's the same because we were not educated at that
Yeah.
time about COVID, and we didn't quite understand it. And later on, they came out and said, well, being around someone who's already had it make you less likely to get it because of their
Hmm.
incubation periods, right? So I think one of the ways around that is being educated.
Yeah.
We just don't understand what mental health is. And it's a three-part component, just like being with our bodies. It's mental health, it's mental wellness, and then you have mental illness.
Hmm.
And like I was sharing with this gentleman, when you talk about your mental health, it involves your emotional, your psychological, and your social well-being. It
Mm.
affects how you think, how you feel, and how you react to people, right?
Yeah.
But when people hear mental illness, first thing they want to talk about is their uncle or their cousin that's got schizophrenia.
Hmm.
Well, we're not talking about mental illness at this moment. We're talking about our mental health.
Hmm.
How do we handle our mental health? How do we take care of our mental health? Because we all have that, just like we have physical health, we have mental health.
Yeah. I really appreciate you differentiating between, mental health, mental illness, and mental wellness, because I do think you're right. When people hear that someone's struggling with their mental health, they go right to, oh, they're crazy or something like that. And I think
Mhm.
especially for women, I think women can really be kind of um thought of as that too, and pushed into those stereotypes and things, which is just a problem in itself. And as you mentioned, education is really important for this to kind of reduce these stigmas. What would you think about, schools kind of putting more emphasis and talking about mental health and mental wellness?
To be honest, I think COVID has helped push us in that direction.
Hmm.
And I think schools and employers are really getting on board with trying to come up. But I think that we all have to understand these differences, because mental wellness is just your state of being, right? Of being able to accept and handle and adapt to things when they happen, right? Because we
Hmm.
know in life, no matter what, our mental health involves, like I said, your emotional, your psychological, and your social well-being, right? That's just our mental health. And
Hmm.
then but that can be affected by things that happen to us: marriage, divorce, um, loss of a loved one,
Mm.
other traumatic things that can happen, stress at work, loss of
Yeah.
a job, all of those things can affect our mental health, right? Or
Hmm.
just as those things can affect our bodies, like if we eat too much sugar, we got
Yep.
diabetes, right? If we had too much cholesterol, it affects our heart. Just like those are things that affect. So you do things to help maintain your health, physical
Hmm.
health, and we have to do things to help maintain our mental health, right? And
Hmm.
so that's where mental wellness comes in, when we learn those things that we can do to help us when we are, or when we do encounter things such as death,
Yeah.
illnesses, loss of jobs, divorce. When we learn behaviors that we can use to counter those, right? And that's what mental wellness is: learning those behaviors so that you can be mentally able to adapt to the changes that
Hmm.
are going to happen in everyone's life.
Yeah. That's, I think, the key thing too, is that
And
in everyone's life, these things are going to happen and they're going to encounter these issues. So they kind of do, they have to have that toolkit to be able to deal
mhm.
with them and manage them.
Absolutely. And the important thing about mental health, where they interchange mental health and mental wellness, that I want people to mental illness is that I want people to understand that mental illness is a diagnosis
Yeah.
that's given to you about your mental state,
Hmm.
right? Just like a diagnosis is given to you about your physical state.
Hmm.
And if you're diagnosed with cancer, diabetes, heart disease, you
Hmm.
don't want to be treated any different than someone who's diagnosed with schizophrenia,
Hmm.
So that's how, if we learn to look at it that way. And that's all those diagnoses are. They are medical diagnoses given to you as it pertains to your mind,
Yeah, absolutely.
right? And just like there are those, and we can't function without our brains, without our minds. Imagine your body with no head. Is that a
Yeah.
functioning body,
Mhm.
right? So my point is helping people bring all of that into one, to realize that your body is one entity from your head to your toes. Stop discounting the head.
Yeah. And so at Transformative Healing and Wellness, what are some of the treatments or and therapies that you are going to be offering?
So we will be doing the traditional therapies, therapeutic services,
Mhm.
um, where we're helping people through regular therapy, CBT, helping
Mhm.
cog whatever type of therapy, any type of therapy. I personally like to work with the integrative model,
Mhm.
which gives me, or allows me, the opportunity to individualize the service that I am providing for my clients. So I'm not sticking with one particular modality. I may
Mhm.
have to bring something in from solution focus. I may have to bring something in from mindfulness. I may have to bring something in from cognitive behavioral therapy, or play therapy, or art therapy. You bring those entities. So because I'm not focusing on one particular module,
Mhm.
I learn the whole gamut and just try to do that integrative approach where I
Yeah.
can work individually with each client. And when we talk about the wellness portion of it, I'm excited. That's my new baby.
Mhm.
And I'm really excited about that, because the wellness aspect of it, as we talked about earlier, brings in that entity of when people who are in that in between space. And when
Mm.
I say in between space, that means that they may have faced a death, they may have lost income, they may have some traumatic that's going on in their life. And what's traumatic to someone else may not be traumatic
Yeah.
to another person, right? But for this person, it could take them down,
Yeah.
right? But at that moment, you may not necessarily need to be diagnosed. So
Hmm.
you're in between. You're battling with these. You may meet one or two criteria of being diagnosed, but you don't necessarily need to be diagnosed. Well, how do you or what do you do to help you get from that in between space?
Hmm.
And that's what we do in the Wellness Center. So there in the Wellness Center, I have three, currently have three. I have some other ones on the back burner, but I
Hmm.
currently have three wellness rooms.
Okay.
The first one is the plant room, and statistics have shown, science have shown that plants can be very medicinal.
Mm.
And so I did my research, and we have every plant that's in the plant room has been proven to show some type of medicinal benefit, particularly for those going through some mental challenges,
Hmm.
okay? And so in that plant room, it kind of brings you back to nature. And we know that nature is healing, right?
Hmm.
Because you're going to be surrounded by plants, and you're going to get that fresh air, the breathing of the,
Hmm.
helping you breathe. So that's what's happening in the plant room. You get to rent these rooms out for 30 minutes or 45 minutes at whatever you choose. And you get to go in there and have
Yeah.
that moment for yourself. That's the plant room. Then we also have, and those criteria fit all of them, but then we also have the meditation room.
Okay.
And we, of course, we know that meditation has been proven to help one overcome, stress, anxiety, even depression, right? It's just a
Hmm.
form of releasing and becoming your best you at that moment, even
Yes.
if it's just for a moment, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what the meditation room is. The meditation room has different types of seating, so you can choose. You can lay on the floor, you can sit in the egg chair, you can
Hmm.
use the meditation chair, or you can use the yoga mat. The room is equipped with scents.
Mm.
Also, we have every room will also have Alexa, so you can choose your own type of music
Okay.
that relaxes you and calm you. Because every what relaxes each person is different.
Yeah.
So the purpose of not just having a certain kind of music in there, but allowing you to be able to play what relaxes you.
Hmm.
And then the fun room is the splatter room. And
Ooh.
paint, we have what we call art therapy. There are those that specialize specifically in art therapy,
Yeah.
right? And we know that art is a form of release, right? It's
Hmm.
a form of expressing yourself. And I had this little sign in the room that says that we're all a little broken, but the
Hmm.
last time I checked, broken crayons still color, right?
Yeah.
And so that helps us to imagine what this room is about. Now, the difference in the splatter room, other than just painting, is it's a room where you can vent. You've been at work, you've had a hard day, a long day, you're angry, you don't want to go home and take it out on your spouse or your
Hmm.
children or your, friends or whatever. Rent that splatter room. You can splatter paint on the walls, on
Hmm.
the floor, just releasing, just letting things out, just letting it go. Or you can
Yeah.
use the splatter room to come in and you can paint on a canvas. You
Hmm.
can do coloring by numbers or coloring, just adult coloring.
Hmm.
So it's just that space of, I just need a moment.
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
and and things throughout life happen to me that help me understand that, one, this is my calling, this is my
Hmm.
passion. But two, my very dearest best friend of all times, who's had left us through cancer. But I remember I was married, and when I would be upset or angry about something, we talked every day, like 2 or 3 times a day, but I would call her before I got home. right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would just vent. I say whatever I had to say. I just vent. I took that moment and I just vent. And I let her have it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so by the time I got home, I don't care who I was angry, upset with, or distressed with. By the time I got home, they didn't know it because I
Yeah.
don't know. I had that moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I come fast forward to recently, and I went into the doctor's office, and um, I was just sitting there, and I was like, oh gosh, I just need some time. So I went in. I'm talking to the lady. I went to get a B12 shot. To be honest with you, I needed some energy. I was
Yeah.
just like exhausted, right? And I hadn't
Mm-hmm.
been there in a while, and we're just talking. And so when I came out the room, I sat in her lounge, and she says, "Well, what's wrong?" I said, "Nothing's wrong. I just need a minute."
Yeah.
And that's what helped me as I was pulling this together, realize we all just need a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when we get into these major arguments and major issues with people that don't necessarily have to happen if we just take a moment
Mm-hmm.
to just release and relax. And that's the purpose of the wellness rooms, to help those people in that in between space, to help them recognize that, yes, you may be down. Yes, you may be depressed. Yes, you may be stressed out or angry, but take a moment and
Mm-hmm.
use it in a positive way for yourself.
Absolutely. And I think like in our world today, we're always so go, go, go and moving on to
Mm-hmm.
the next thing. And, that idea of taking a moment for yourself is so important because if you don't, just like you said, the feelings that are bubbling under the surface come out when you're engaging with your kids or your
Mm-hmm.
parents or your spouse. And it's just like nobody wants that to happen because then you feel even worse because you didn't mean for it to come out or you didn't mean to make them feel bad because you're having a bad day. But that is really
Absolutely.
important.
Absolutely.
And so when your clients, leave a session with you, how do you want them to feel?
I want them to feel safe. I
Mhm.
want them to feel empowered to make change, the changes that are needed for them. I want them to feel like they had that outlet,
Mhm.
like and that they're okay. And
Yeah.
it's okay to be in that space. Even if they're doing traditional therapy, it's okay. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to say, I don't want to forgive.
Yeah.
All of your feelings are validated.
Mhm.
I want them to be validated here, but I want you to know that you have an outlet and you can change the trajectory of those feelings and that space that you're in at that moment.
Absolutely. Well, Julie, thank you so much for sharing, your story into this space. And just before we close out, I wanted to give you the chance again to remind people when your center will be opening and where it will be, and then plug anything else that you'd like to plug as well.
Thank you. So the grand opening is this coming Saturday, November the 19th. We will have a ribbon cutting ceremony because it is a brand new business.
Mhm.
And as well as being able to come through the ceremony, will start around 12:15, 12:30,
Mhm.
something like that. So please come out. The address again is 9505 Reisterstown Road. You will see balloons or something outside to let you know that that's where we are. We are located on the third floor. I challenge everyone to just come out, see what we're about,
Mhm.
check the wellness rooms out. I know from a therapeutic perspective, if we're not asking you to say, "Hey, I want you to be my therapist,"
Yeah.
out loud or anything like that. But just come out, check the wellness rooms out, check the environment out. One of the things about the center for me was very important to not make it feel like you were going into a medical center,
Mhm.
but to just give people that feeling of this is their space, this is their time. And so
Mhm.
that's one of my big things that I'm very happy about is that the environment doesn't make you feel like, oh, I got to go for a doctor's appointment.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do something for me whether it's mind, body, or spirit. I'm going to do
Mhm.
something for me. And so come out, just check the center out. Just do it for yourself, not for me, but just do it for yourself and
Mhm.
see what else we have out there, what we're trying to do different in the mental health and wellness arena.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations, Julie, on this upcoming opening, and it was a pleasure doing business with you today.
Thank you so much for having me and allowing me to be a part of your listening audience.
Of course, it was my pleasure.
Thank you.